and opinions of our advertisers and management of Pacific Telestations Incorporated. You're watching Buzz with Jess Lujan.
Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of Buzz. Exciting show tonight. We're getting really cultural. Can you tell? Tonight as well. Johnny Saban last week. We have Polly Eric Forbes. Father Eric Forbes tonight is with us, alongside Joanne Carbolito, or Capuzito Tabor, and she is the project director for the I Am Chamorro project. And of course, the man that's making it all happen as well is the priest, Father or Polly Eric Forbes. Good evening, Father.
Good evening,
Joanne, and welcome back to Guam.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good. Father, you are the recipient, of course, of the 2013 the Dahi Cultura. You were the nominee and you were the awardee for that. It's
very
great.
grateful for that.
You know, and you know, it's an honor. And every time you speak, people listen.
I hope.
Tell us about this. What you're doing. You have been. I mean, man, you've been preaching all over. You're bringing your ministry to a lot of our chamorros, not just here in Guam, but stateside as well, and most particularly the ministry of our culture.
Yes, yes.
Please.
Because when I was on sabbatical and I had a year off, of course, I'm not the type to sit down and watch TV all day. So I, looked for something to do. And so someone said, why don't you go do the Mass at Good Samaritan Hospital in Los Angeles? That's where all the Guam medical referral patients go to, and they have a Our Lady of Cameron Mass every December. So that's how Joanne and I got to know each other.
Were you a patient there?
No,
Okay.
She coordinates it.
Oh, okay.
Organizer.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Mass.
Okay.
And so,
the Mass. Okay.
So I went there, and one of the auxiliary bishops of Los Angeles was the main celebrant. He had already been signed up, but he allowed me to preach, and the rest is history.
Yeah. You know, and you guys, I'm sure I'm big contributing factors to, when I go back to California or wherever there's a big, Chamorro population, I see I Am Chamorro signs. So, I mean, you can't go down one freeway and not see a Guam flag, decal, or Chamorro, Island Girl, and things like that.
Even businesses.
And we're seeing that.
That is a fact.
That's a fact.
Yes.
Oh.
According to the 2010 federal census.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow. So a big voting block over there. As a matter of fact, some of our federal issues can be addressed by.
Yeah. One of the challenges is the Manmatsalapon. Yeah. They're all over. They don't go and inhabit one area of one city.
But they all have different congressmen and
that's
senators.
That's it.
So
that's it.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, there is it seems, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it seems there's been a real resurgence or a want, a need, a desire, a hunger again for this perpetuation of who we are and what we are.
Thank you for saying that, because I always try to look at what we can do, the positive, and not cry over, situations. Let's do something. And you're right. For too long, all we hear, or what we mainly hear, is it's dying, we're losing it, and it's true. But okay, what do we do about it?
Sure.
And what's going on right now, here and there, is a groundswell of interest. And that's what our project is trying to do. We're trying to meet a demand. The demand is there. We're not creating any demand. It's there. We're trying to supply what people are asking for.
Last week I had Johnny Saban here, as you know, and he's your gangs.
Yes, he's my gangs.
Johnny Saban was here, and he was talking about how he got started. And he basically, what happened was, he was singing, American songs and all that, until one day he was a part of I guess an international group in college, and they said to him, "Hey, can you bring us something? Give us a Guamese song." And he said, "Guamese song?" That's when, ding, it awakened him as to, he didn't know it, so he had to search. So here again, as we're seeing now, Polly, as much as we say, again, he's kind of dying, but now people are very hungry. And you're seeing not just the dances, but the chants. I mean, the identity, of course, because for the longest time, I guess, where you from? Oh, from Guam. Where you from? Oh, it's close to Hawaii. We were always something else. other than really Guamese, Guamanians, and all that. We were always something else rather than Chamorro. Now it's more identifying. But how, Polly, do we bring this together, and what is a Chamorro? Because a lot of, again, when I was growing up, you know, if I were to put on a sinahine, my grandmother would say, boy, fanan ginin mga ngiti, no, boy, you know. And so it wasn't, you know, it wasn't accepted then. I mean, I wore puka shells not because it was cultural, it was cool. It was cool. So how, again, do we identify a lot of these things are for our interpretations, but where are we at with Chamorro, and are we going towards that right direction?
Well, it's a very big question, because there's no such thing as one kind of culture. Is there one kind of Frenchman? Is there one kind of Englishman? One kind of Japanese? So culture is on many levels and different pockets, you know, of, so it's the same thing with the Chamorro culture, Northern Guam, Southern Guam, Saipan, Luta, I mean, mainland, you know, so even within Guam, different strata, you know, social strata. So culture is very diversified, even within one race. I think the question of race, who is Chamorro, is the easier question to answer, because I think the answer is whoever has a drop of Chamorro blood considered Chamorro. And that's just the fact. That's how we operate.
Now let me ask you this as well, because of what is Chamorro. Now that being said, and you had just said there are different kinds within the races now, because as they call the new, I guess the new version it's a fusion now, right? Okay. So when we look at that, how are some Chamorros able to keep and maintain their names and not have been diluted over the years? And, you know, my name has been diluted over the years. Yours certainly has, and all that. But how are some like the Azuzus and all that have been able over the years with all the different kinds that they're
have plenty boys. Have plenty boys. And if you're unmarried, this is what happened. There are some families that have kept the Chamorro name because the mother, even though she wasn't married, had sons, and they took the mother's name.
So not necessarily, I mean, so it not necessarily that they didn't have mixed blood, because they could have had
absolutely.
Spanish blood, more Spanish blood, or German blood, but because they weren't married, they still maintained their maiden name.
They could have had a German or a British whaler father, but he wasn't legally married or sacramentally married to the mother, so the son keeps the Chamorro name.
That form name. Okay. So I mean, that's an explanation. But and why? Okay. So why is it now then that we see more? I mean, we have some here, but more of those indigenous names, more of those Chamorro names are more in place, haven't been diluted, I guess, in say the Northern Marianas that there are here in Guam.
I'm not sure I understand it.
I mean, we see more of a gathering of more of the names, the original, like the Azuzus and of. When they say this, we know they're maybe from Rhoda or something like that. Okay. So a lot of them there, a lot of the Chamorros over there have kept more of them have the native names than maybe out here.
Well, because in Luta you had less outside blood coming in. You had some, but not as much as Guam. Because Agana really changed, right? Right after the colonization, right? Agana was the center where, you know, the 300-400 so-called Spanish, which we now know includes many Mexicans and South Americans, lived. In the barrio of San Ignacio and in the barrio of Santa Cruz lived the soldiers from Pampanga. Although we could also say perhaps a Tagalog or a Bicolano also came in there. But at least in the document they were identified as soldiers from Pampanga. Okay, and Pangilinan is there, and Manibusan is there under the Pampanga. And then Camacho and Dueñas are under the so-called Spanish, but it could be Mexican or Peruvian. And then you get cruises in both. So it's difficult for us with some families to trace, is it a Mexican or a Spanish origin, or is it a Pampanga or Filipino origin? Okay, so then the outlying villages, Aniguag, Mongmong, Tepungan, Sinohanya, that's where you find all the indigenous. But in time, those people are also recipients of Agana settlers. Agana gets too crowded. Around the 1880s, boom, you have the Regises move down to Maleso.
That's your family.
Boom, you have the Leon Guerreros move down to Inalahan. And then you have a migration of mainly Hagåtña, but also Hagat and some Sumay Chamorros going up to Saipan. But in Luta, that was less so.
Yeah.
But in Luta, you have Mendiolas.
Yeah.
They're originally from.
I got to take a break. We'll come back, talk a little more about this, and then also the project I Am Chamorro project. We'll be right back. Tapanamagi.